Hey everyone, what's up? Hope you're having a nice little Thursday. It's Thursday, right? Yeah, it is. That was about to be very embarrassing. Hey, hello, Stephen. Hello, Israel. Hello, Matrix. Hello, Blazing Manx. Oh, that was bad timing on my part because I was about to point to the scrolling thing at the top to talk about what we're gonna do today. But if you can see the title at the bottom, what I want to talk about today, the little thing, the aspect of Flareful that I want to maybe overhaul a bit, is the gadget. So let's take a peek at what we have at the moment. So this is what the gadgets page looks like at the moment in Flareful. For a bit of context, because I assume most of you have probably just either skimmed it or not read that part yet. So just for context, gadgets are kind of this thing that I put in the system to promote creativity in the problem solving. The idea is, instead of giving players a bunch of items that can do a bunch of different things, I'm giving people components, and then they can tinker their own thing and their own solutions. Sensor, peripheral, energy source. Yep. So the way it works right now, I have, being the nice little YouTuber that I am, I have a presentation, of course. That's right. We're getting weekly PPTs. That's the entire reason I made these streams happen. It's just so I can fulfill my quota of PowerPoints. So the way they work right now is you have three types of modules. You have energy sources, which could be anything from like fusion core, which is very, very copyrighted. But there's a bunch of different examples. There's so that's sensors. Where's the energy sources? There we go. You could have a dynamo crank, which you use an action to activate. You could use a fan, which, the way fans work, you could technically use them as like a wind, what's the English word for that? English is hard. Anyway, you could use. Why do I have two fusion batteries? This is silly. Yeah, you can see this. This little section needs a bit of work. And the idea of energy sources is they're kind of the limiting factor. Because otherwise, if you didn't have a need to have an energy source for the gadget to work, you could just have like an infinite amount of sensors and peripherals, and that would lead to some problems. Like, for example, one of the peripherals is a machine gun turret. So what you could do with that, if you didn't have a limit on the amount of components you could put in a gadget, you could have like one sensor, like a motion detector, and then 16 machine gun turrets linked to it. And whenever the motion sensor is triggered, you just blast anything into oblivion. The second type of item you have is the sensor, and that's the idea that you're not really controlling the gadget. You just set up the gadget and then let it do its thing. So there's a bunch of different examples of sensors. No, that's not the right page, sorry. This one, yeah. So for sensors, you have anything from Geiger counters, motion sensors, microphones, cameras. You have thermal cameras. You have satellite antennas if you want to use some radio signals. The way it works right now, and I think that's probably going to stay because, or at least in some form, is sensors produce signals, and there's two types of signals, but there's more like 5 or 6. But the idea is that they fall into two categories. You have simple signals, which are basically just on or off. And then you have complex signals. So that could be anything from GPS coordinates, video, that could be audio, that could be anything, a set of instructions. And then you consume those signals in the peripherals, which can actually act on the world. So you have the trigger and you have the action. We can steal the template to create magic items, traps in fantasy role-playing. Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's kind of how it works at the moment. You have these three types of items. I have a nice little example of it. So for example, you could have a simple alarm system around your camp when you're sleeping at night during like an expedition out in the wasteland and you don't want to be surprised. You could just set up like a motion sensor and some loudspeakers, and then whenever anything moves in vicinity of your little camp, the GM is legally obliged to just tell you about it. That's how it works. So what do you want to overhaul about it? Thank you for giving me the exact segue I was looking for. So I've noticed a couple issues with this system. The main one being, in the couple playtests I've ran of this thing, my players have never used gadgets. And maybe it's on me, like maybe I need to actually have the bad guys use gadgets as well, so that, like, to introduce the concept to my players so that they start looking into it and maybe start using it themselves. But right now, yeah, the appeal doesn't seem to be hitting the way it should. How the limits work. Heating, increase energy consumption, a CPU to control multiple sensors. So right now the only limit we have is the energy. So the energy source produces energy, and it's usually pretty expensive, and the sensors and peripherals consume energy. So let's just give you an example. We have let's put together that example from the presentation with the motion sensor and the loudspeaker. So if you look at motion sensor, that consumes 1 energy, and then a loudspeaker consumes 1 energy. So you're gonna need an energy source producing at least 2 energy. So if you scroll down to energy sources, you're gonna need either a dynamo crank. Well, most of them, except maybe most of them will work. 2 energy is pretty easy to get by. But as you start creating more complex and more powerful gadgets, you're probably gonna run out pretty soon. Maybe what you need is 1 or more players who will find gadgets fun to use. Absolutely, yeah. So here's the thing. I have listed a couple of the problems I think this little system has at the moment that I want to tackle today. The first one is that I created this system a while ago. Like, we're talking about a year and a half ago at this point. And at the time, Playerful was, and don't tell Bethesda about this, it was a bit of a Fallout system, except I made it a bit more 5e. But it's not that anymore. It's grown a bit past its roots. And one of the themes of the Fallout universe is that energy is scarce. That's not a theme of Playerful, though. Like, one of the core pillars of this world is that it's a post-fusion energy world. So we have a bunch of energy. Like, you're gonna just stumble into a fusion reactor into someone's home on a daily basis. So a dynamo crank is not going to be very impactful. Like, it's not going to be a limiting factor in the way that I maybe envisioned at the time. No, don't tell Todd. So that's one of the issues. Like, if you go to a character sheet, right now, you have one of your resources. Every single item is made up of these 5 components. So scrap metal, anything made of people, chemicals, electronics, and energy. And that energy bit, like, that is a core resource of this game. I want to have a bunch of features consume energy so that you can use them. I want to have a bunch of items consume energy so that you can craft them. It's kind of something that's a bit more than a list of items like dynamo crank. So I don't think energy works as a limiting factor for this little gadget system. I'm going to... And I've come up with a different limiting factor, which would be... If I can... Yeah, there we go. The new way. Oh god. Okay. It's fine. Hello, welcome, Michael. Might still be useful to have power sources though, right? You can't just carry a fusion reactor around you for a utility tool that fits in your pocket. But that's kind of the idea, that it's that you can fit a fusion reactor in your pocket, because one of the pieces of technology in this setting is it in this article? Yeah, it is. So fusion energy in this setting, it works this way. You have fusion nexus, which is like a giant power plant type of reactor, and that's the root. That's the how fusion energy is created. But once you have that, you can use a nexus to basically boot or like kickstart a bunch of sub-reactors. And sub-reactors, they fit in your pocket. Like, you could have a sub-reactor that's the size of a car, you could have a sub-reactor that's the size of a watch. The way they work is that they're cold fusion reactors, which is very much sci-fi. It's very much like, don't worry about it too much territory. Fusion reactors in my pocket, you say? Yeah, absolutely. So one of the one kind of pseudoscience thing we kind of allowed ourselves with this setting is that when people actually managed to get fusion working, they discovered something kind of weird, which is that the light emitted by a fusion reaction is solid, like you can touch it. That's how it became this whole thing of hard light, which can create like tangible holograms that you can walk on and build structures out of, build weapons out of even. It's only solid for a fraction of a second, but the way people used it is that they basically just pushed 2 beams of hard light at each other and then squeezed some deuterium in the middle, which is the fuel for fusion reactions, and they achieved cold fusion. So you have this huge power plant, which is a very important location, that does hot fusion, that takes a lot of fuel, that takes a lot of technology, that takes a lot of infrastructure and a lot of manpower to actually run. But then you have all of these tiny sub-reactors, which are kind of self-sustaining cold fusion. So if your sub-reactor ever stops for some reason, you're gonna find a nexus to restart it. Yeah, absolutely. Could be interesting. Could be interesting to have the complexity of a gadget increase the chance of its power source burns out. That is the intent. Yep. In fact, I think one of the plot hooks or adventure seeds we have for hard light, or maybe for deuterium fusion, is that, yeah, you've run out of deuterium for your sub-reactors and need to explore an abandoned nexus to find more. Like, that's kind of the idea of having these 2 types of fusion reactors, is that you're gonna find some cold fusion reactors basically everywhere, but most of them are going to get fried by the solar flare. So most of them are not going to work out of the gate, but you can still scrap them, you can still like gather them, and then if you happen to manage to get your hands on a hot fusion reactor, like an actual power plant, then all of your cold fusion reactors are going to be much more valuable all of a sudden. So that's the idea for fusion. And that's kind of the reason why I don't think energy should be like the limiting factor for these gadgets, because it doesn't really fit the setting anymore. Instead, I have a couple of ideas. One of my ideas is to use a chassis. Is that the English word? Let me Google that real quick. A chassis or a frame, in other words. Apparently you guys picked that word. Okay, so yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, a chassis. So instead of producing energy, the limiting factor is space. So it grants space. That's right, we're doing, well, at least we're experimenting with a form of encumbrance, I guess. So now space is the limiting factor, and there's a couple of ways we could do this. Like, for example, you could have a chassis that is a turret. You could have a chassis that is a toy car that can move. You could have a chassis that is an entire base that has a lot of space for a lot of different gadgets. But now that is your little limiting factor. So I think that what I want to do today is kind of explore this design space, maybe come up with a bunch of different chassis, figure out if there's actually something there that we could use, or if it's just a fool's errand. Yeah, chassis could have slots, absolutely. Like, we could do this this thing that a lot of games do. Like, let's take like a backpack, for example. I should probably not Google images. Yeah, we immediately get some weird stuff. Okay, let's just pick this one and pretend the rest didn't exist. Okay, there we go. So let's take a backpack, for example. Like, one way I could do this is just with numbers. I could say the backpack has 5 spaces. But another way I could do it is give you an image of a backpack, and then on it I would draw like 2 squares like this, and that would tell you the backpack has 2 slots, and then I would give you on your character sheet a way to drag and drop items into those slots. Maybe they could even be divided, like you could have 2 big slots which divide into 4 small slots each, and then different items and different sensors and different peripherals could take different amounts of slots. Other good idea is to overclock the items to extract more power. You can limit the gadgets by durability too. Okay, let me take notes. You're having some good ideas right there. Other possible limiting factors, so heat or overheating. That could be an idea. Actually, kind of similar to class design I've been working on for my system, as if levels get you more slots for customization. That's interesting. Like, you've mentioned a couple of times that you're working on something. I'm excited to look at it whenever you want to share it. I'd keep things simple and grant slots instead of space. Like, sure, thematically it grants space, but it might be too much work if you need to calculate how much space you have available, etc. So with slots, do you mean this one, or do you mean like just backpack 3 slots or 4 slots? Like, are we talking about just pure numbers, or are we talking about space and like this minigame where you have to make things fit? Here's a limiting factor idea also. How much stuff one can reasonably put together due to their personal qualities. Intelligence equivalent. So that's another thing that I want to talk about. One of the problems I think this system has at the moment is that you remember that little graph I made on my last video, which is basically what are tabletop RPGs about and what is this tabletop RPG especially about. As you can see, there's one right here that's pretty important, at least to me, and it's character expression. And right now, like, I don't think there's a way to express the fact that you're lucky, or that you're fast, or that you're charismatic, or that you're strong through this gadget system. So there's a couple of ways I think I could tackle this. One way is to just go, okay, gadgets are fine, but they're the technique thing, right? Because technique is one of the 5 stats in this game. So I could say that's just the technique thing. And then I would have to come up with different things for the other 4 stats. The other way would be maybe there's some gadgets that, or some sensors or some peripherals that instead of treating as items, I would treat more as class features. That way I would give strength-based characters a bunch of recipes for different gadgets that they could make that nobody else could make. I'm not as much of a fan of this, because to me, like, the aesthetic of a gadget is that you could just hand it over to someone else. You could just put it in place somewhere. So it kind of feels natural that it's separated from your character, but at the same time, I don't want things to be too separated from your character, if that makes sense. You can double up on the mechanic and call it equipment gadgets. And call all equipment gadgets. Oh. There's definitely going to be some dev needed if I do the slots thing, especially for the turret, because it would be difficult to drag and drop a weapon that's not a gadget into a gadget slot. Like, I would need to figure out the data model for that. That's going to be a bit of a brain teaser for sure. So that's kind of my 2 main worries right now. It's the idea that I need to come up with a different limiting factor, and the idea that, is there a way I can bring the character into it? It's a similar issue that some of the Artificer features run into. You're making stuff, but some of it is hard tied to you, so it's actually only items from an aesthetic standpoint. That kind of works for the Artificer, I feel, because if you're an Artificer, usually you're going to be the only Artificer in your party. So even if you give your items to somebody else, it's still your item, right? It's still an extension of your character expression, even though you handed it to someone else. Like, your entire role as an Artificer, and that's why it kind of works for them, and I feel like it would almost be fine to make this whole gadget system a class of sorts, like make it not a part of the overall game, but just one thing you could decide to pick. You could opt in almost. Like if you pick the Tinkerer tech tree, for example. Bring the character into it by deciding how many components one can put together based on how smart. let the inventor customize devices on who they are made for. Yeah, kind of. That's kind of the dynamic they have going on with the advisor in 5e. So yeah, that's kind of where I am right now with the gadget system. Outside of just, I want a lot more art for it because I think it's going to need it just to make people understand what the gadgets look like. You can have gadget upgrades as progression too, using more gadgets and more powerful ones like spells work in D&D. So I already have a bit of a progression for that going on. Right now the way it works is the same way it works for basically every single item, which is that you have a tech level for every single item. And the way it works is, if an item is tech 1, anyone can craft it. If it's tech 2, you need a feat to craft it. And in fact, I think it is that feat that I selected in the other page. You need to pick gadget components here. When you pick the specialist feat, and then if you want to craft tier 3 components, you're gonna need a second feat, which is not something you can take at first level. It's the expert feat. Choose one of the items for which you can craft tech 2 items. You can now craft tech 3 items of that type. So there's already a bit of a progression curve here. Like, you're not going to be able to craft every single one of these at level 1. Thing is here, it requires a player with the right mindset. I like to call the player type inventor. Yeah, like, I think, yeah, the right approach is probably to make to be okay with the fact that there's not a whole lot of character expression in the system itself, because at the end of the day, the only people who are going to engage with this system are the ones whose characters match this aesthetic. I probably need to give people more features related to gadgets, maybe like make them able to craft items for cheaper or something. What happens when you get an engineer playing at your table? Yeah, I have like 3 of them at my table. It's a mess. We can play with the granularity. Yeah, so let's do that thing I said, which is try to come up with a bunch of chassis first and try to see if there's potential here. If it's a good alternative to the idea of energy. I'm going to edit this page. For now, I'm not like anchoring anything in code. I'm just going to write a bunch of stuff. So, fair warning, there's going to be a code flashbang. Oh no. So that's the gadget page right now. I'm going to add an extra section here. So chassis. Only some people will engage with it. Is only true until the best gadget build. Yeah, that's kind of my fear. I want there to be this system that people can interact with the world in a creative way. But if they can interact with the world in a way that is just more effective than shooting at the world, they're gonna do that. They're just gonna do that. Which is not a bad thing, in a sense. So when the game first launches, that'll definitely be true, but once it's been out for a bit, that'll change. Yeah. Okay, let's just come up with some nice chassis first. So what stats do we want on a chassis? We need an item name. We're gonna need a recipe. We're gonna need a tech level. That's just true for every single item in the game. We are going to need... Do we need a size, or do I change the way size works? Yep, I'm probably changing the way size works. And then a description for any features the chassis might have on top of just the space it provides. Same can be said for combat. Yeah. Not everyone is into invention, just like not everyone is into combat. But one of the inspirations besides Fallout 4, as I talked earlier, is this game called 7 Days to Die, which has a very similar system. So in this game, it's a really elegant design. It's basically a zombie survival game. So if you've played anything from Rust to even Minecraft, you probably know what to expect. The one thing they're doing that's pretty unique is that, as the name implies, every 7 days you have a wave of zombies hitting your base, which kind of solves a lot of the issues of the genre. And in that game, you have a bunch of... Can I find the wiki, maybe? You have a bunch of classes. And the way classes work in this game is really interesting because thanks to the fact you have classes, even if you're playing in co-op, you can have one person focused on combat and then everyone else is just focused on different aspects of the system, and nobody has to learn the entire game. And that's really interesting to me. Like, I still don't know how to farm in this game, like make food, and we've been playing it with my friends for about 6 months now, I think. Electricity, yeah, there we go. Electricity. Do they have like some nice diagrams or something? No, they don't. Do you want to come up with more specific chassis lists, though? Wouldn't it be better to just assume it to be a thing and then have gadgeteers add extra properties like handheld, wearable? Oh. Well, that's an idea. I don't know how I would make it work, but the idea of giving your chassis more features, that could be an angle for sure, to make the technique guy, the one person who specializes in gadget, better at just making more gadgets, or making more out of their gadgets. Okay, so let's do the list of chassis. Let's come up with like the base one, the one that's kind of the blueprint every other one is going to be based on, which is probably just going to be a backpack. Recipe. So that's going to be, I need my icons list, which is in my character sheet. There we go. Just gonna copy that over real quick so I have it. There we go. Backpack is probably going to be a bit of scrap, like 2, and then a bit of biomass for the leather or something. Like, I would expect most player characters to have a backpack, kind of thing. You could have the old Diablo style body part slot on the character sheet. It's been years since I've played Diablo. How did it work? I don't remember. Let's take a Diablo 2 inventory. Right. Oh god, the new image on Reddit is it's so bad. Oh, I'll just pick another image. Okay, so that's how it used to work. So that's for wearable stuff. Now, the idea of, yeah, you have some items which take like more height than width. That's definitely something I could do. You want to get extra nerdy, always. So here's the thing about my approach to most of the game design stuff is I'm never going to sacrifice usability for realism. But if I can get realism and get some actual interesting gameplay out of it, like, I'm gonna do it, you know? So backpack. How do I define the size? I'm gonna say I'll need an image of a backpack. I'll use this one as a temporary one. Can I blah blah blah? No, I can't extract the image from there. Instead of defining chassis, I would define what materials you can make chassis out of and maybe which ones you can't. Yeah, I would expect most chassis are going to be made of scrap and biomass. Probably most of it is going to be scrap. And then base the slots on the number of materials. Oh. Let me get to maybe Pixabay has some nice backpack images. In vectors. Yeah, let's use this one. Okay. So I'm thinking I would divide this thing into like a bunch of different areas. And then I would say you can use these ones. And then make it not too obstructive. I'll just export this just so we can have it on the website. See how it looks like in the website. D&D projects, Playful. Okay, there we go. So what if I put an image here? It did not work. Did I make it a JPEG? Like an idiot. Any of this working? What is happening? Do I actually need a description? No. I don't know what's happening with my website. What the... There should be a backpack here. I don't know why it's not showing up. So question, do you want this system to be easily played with pen and paper? Something like this visual slot system is simple on the website, but doing that kind of bookkeeping with pen and paper could get annoying. I'm thinking like, if you have the website, I could give you like a printable black and white sheet with all of the item images, so you could do some physical puzzles kind of thing. Inventor players would be more than willing to put up with it. Signal combiner. Oh, you want to do the whole logic gate kind of thing? Make this redstone basically. Okay, what is happening with my image? Is it just that it needs more room to breathe? I don't know what's happening. This image works. This one doesn't. Okay, this image is empty for some reason. Error loading. Some weird stuff is happening. See my files. Careful. Images. Where's my backpack? It is there. I really don't understand what's happening with the image server right now. It's really weird. Anyway, this is not a dev stream, it's a game dev or game design stream. For tabletop RPGs, you could use cards. Very simple. Join cards, make them. Yeah. I'm thinking, like, if I actually had a backpack image that would show up here, like, I could make this just a black and white image, and then give you a sheet with all of the different printable items at the right size and scale, so that they fit in the actual slots. Okay, let's forget about the image. We're gonna say the backpack itself is size 4x4, and then we could do like slots make it a table. Oh god, it's so weird making tables in Markdown. There we go. And then I could go on the two sides, here and here. You have spaces. And then everywhere else, there we go. So how that shows up on the table, it's not great. I thought it would look better than this. Maybe I can make this a bit smaller. There we go. Okay, yeah. It's not great. But it's a draft. It's gonna work. So that's kind of like the archetypal chassis. You would have this as the example that every other chassis is based on. This might go nowhere, but by the way, small disclaimer, a lot of what I do with game design is just throw ideas at the wall and then they don't stick and then I'm disappointed. But we're gonna push this idea and see where it goes. Okay, so that's one chassis. Let's come up with a few other ones. Do we need a description for the backpack? Does it give you anything else outside of this? Let's pretend this system has an encumbrance rule. Doubles your item capacity. Disclaimer, this system doesn't have item capacity. Okay. We gotta figure that out later. Another chassis could be turret. Not a turret, because a turret implies like it kind of shoehorns you, pigeonholes you into making a gun turret. It could just be like a frame, I guess, which is going to have a bit more metal. Size, maybe we can make that a lot taller. Kind of like this, and then it could have bigger items, like you could have a whole 6 here, and then some more at the bottom. This is just throwing stuff at the wall. You use electronics to determine how many slots the chassis gives you. That's interesting. Yeah, you would need a bit of electronics just to wire stuff together. Let's represent that with this. that could just be in the crafting recipe of the frame. Oh yeah, the description of the backpack could just be you can wear this chassis. And then the frame would be you can deploy or retrieve this chassis as a use an item action. It stays in place after being deployed. Just simple stuff that still works well. Can I have some extra space between those two? Like, no, that doesn't work. So what other types of frames or chassis do we need? We need one that moves. So we need, let's say, a toy car, and then instead of being a peripheral, that's going to be the chassis. So probably a lot less scrap because it's smaller, but a lot more electronics. And then it's going to be pretty small. Like this-ish. And then the toy car would... I'm just gonna copy the actual description of the toy car, since I already have it. Simple signal. So that's 3 types of frames. We have the static one, the one you deploy, you have the backpack which you carry with you, and you have the toy car, which you can control with signals. And I guess you should also be able to deploy it. There we go. Might also need to have something about only being able to wear one backpack at a time. Yep, absolutely. That's a good call out. You can only wear one backpack at a time. It could move by having wheels attached to it, like wheels as or a motor as a peripheral. That could work. I've kind of went with the opposite approach, which is, I guess I could have some bigger chassis too. Like maybe I could treat a vehicle as a chassis. So let's explore that. Maybe it's not going to stay, but might as well experiment with it a bit. Because I wanted to redo vehicles anyway. So let's go with motorbike. And I do have an item for that. So I'll just search for it and then use that description. So that's the recipe, and it's deck 4 because I don't want people to be crafting vehicles too much. And that could be like huge, like 10 by 10. rather than a vehicle chassis, it might be better to have chassis that can attach to certain parts of vehicles. Ooh, that would make things a whole lot more modular. Like, you wouldn't need to come up with a new rule for that. You could just have a separate system for vehicles and a system for gadgets. So that's pretty cool. So I guess it would be the frame then. The frame, you could deploy it. It stays in place. You can, if deployed on a vehicle as part of a short rest. I don't like the wording, but you get the idea. Like, you can attach the frame to a vehicle, and then you can say, like, depending on the size of the vehicle, that you could have, or I guess the frame would take up the, because vehicles, they have a crew capacity, I think. Yeah, so I guess the frame could take up one of the spots. If you do, the frame lowers the vehicle's crew capacity by 1. That kind of gives you that customization. Or a big project could take more time and resources, like crafting a magic item. It's possible, but not in the middle of a fight. Yeah, absolutely. The way crafting works at the moment is you have to do it during a rest. But there is a feature, I believe, for the Tinkerer, which is, yeah, you can craft only Tech 1 items as an action. Which is still, like, a lot to consider in combat, so I'm curious how this will go in playtests. I'm really not convinced it's such a good idea, but we're gonna see. If the frame takes up 1 spot, you could create a gadget that replaces the driver to build a self-driving vehicle. That is dangerous, and I like it. I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down on Excalibur, just so I don't forget. AI computer, which can drive a vehicle, fits in it. Oh, I'm completely hiding it, sorry. There you go. Okay, so we get rid of the motorbike, because the motorbike already has a crew capacity of 2, so you could have either a motorbike that you go duo on, or you could customize your motorbike and then put a gun turret on it. Can we combine multiple gadgets? So that's kind of the idea of using space as a limiting factor, is that you can't, but what you can do is, one of the type of signals is radio. Do I have the list here? No, I think I forgot to add that rule, actually. The way I want radio to work is basically it doesn't work outside during the day because of setting stuff, like because of the interference from the sun. But if it works, it does allow you to make two separate gadgets communicate with one another. So you could have it work like during the night or inside of a tunnel. I also have, I think, a cable. Yeah, here it is. A cable, which you could also use to transmit a signal between two objects, so long as they don't get further than 50 meters away from one another. Could be cool to have one spot taken up by a turret, then the other by an auto driver that just goes into a place and drives in circles. Man, I am so looking forward to seeing a player try that, because it's gotta work at least a bit. But here's the thing, like all of these things, especially the motorbike, they're expensive. You don't want them to be destroyed in a game that's about scarcity and trying to recover a bunch of resources. Like that's probably going to be more expensive than whatever you'll find in that bendy camp. So the driving sensor and the wheeled frame could be two separate gadgets. For example, you have two wheeled frame and a driving sensor and a turret. A self-driving motorcycle that can at the censored. This is censored. The idea is if you have slots on the turret itself, like you could have the turret include the self-driving thing if it's small enough, I guess. What could be another type of chassis that that would open up some more possibilities? So we have toy car, we have frame, we have backpack. How about a house, I guess? Like we could go really big with this. Not necessarily a house, but like maybe like a palisade that you would build around your camp, and that would be like 15 by or like 20 by 10, something really huge. It's more interesting if we can do big projects in part. Yeah, I guess you could have like, you could just have a palisade and then put a bunch of frames around it, each with their own gun turret, each with their own motion sensor. So probably not palisade. The idea of using like a palisade is that maybe there's some peripherals out there that could be really big that you couldn't fit on a frame. Like I think I have an electric gate on here that you could activate remotely and you could close remotely. But I don't know if we need that level of detail for what the player characters are going to do. That's more something the bad guys would do, probably. Because heroes tend to be the ones invading other places, usually. Like siege and construction frames. we don't have a flying one. Do I want a flying frame? That sounds like a terrible idea. Then again, it's a setting where most people are probably going to have ranged attacks, so flying is probably not that much of a problem. I guess I could do a drone. You can deploy or retrieve, blah blah blah, that doesn't change. But let's make it even more, and then maybe increase the tag a bit, like maybe take 2 for a drone. You can then control it by sending signals. A drone is probably not going to be able to work with simple signals. So the drone flies up to 5 meters in any direction. That could be a fun chassis, I think. Like, players are definitely going to find uses for this one. Getting a stronghold would be a nice reward. Yeah, I guess I'll try. But yeah, there's the issue that how do I nest chassis into one another? Do I even need to? Because if you can nest them, like, it's going to make the bookkeeping so much harder. Yeah, we probably need to nest them, because it would be so sick. But if only for this reason, it would be so sick to have a car deploy like a fleet of drones. And just, that's what you're fighting, you know, like that's the boss. It's just a self-driving car with a bunch of drones, with a bunch of guns. We probably need some form of nesting. So what's a more sci-fi word for a fortress? Camp, defense. Camp wall. So this one is going to be yay expensive, but it's only going to be probably tech 1, because anyone could build it. And then it would be absolutely huge. What does it look like if I do this? Did I break it? Oh yeah, I need to do it here too. There we go. Not if they break. Oh, that's a good point. Like, you wouldn't want the whole wall to break just because one section of it took some damage. But let's have that like in the rules text for this thing. This chassis can hold other chassis. If it is destroyed, not everything is destroyed, but how do I set this up so it's easy to run? I guess the wall is made up of 6 sections, each with a size of 10 by 10. When one section is destroyed, or I guess I could phrase it another way, destroying one section does not affect the others. Vault, that has a lot of connotations because of Fallout. Like, that immediately tells you that's underground. Welcome back, Matrix. What's another type of chassis? So we have stuff you can put on vehicles. You have one that is a vehicle. Well, 2 with the drone. We have the camp. We have the backpack. Maybe for the drone, every component you add limits the speed. That could be a way to do it. Right now I figured I would just make the size of the drone very small so that it couldn't carry a whole lot of stuff. I'll write this like as a comment. Each module, I think is what I call them, reduces the speed. Would be nice if you put a link frame to suggest that we can combine gadgets. So right now I already have the cable as a peripheral. Would I need that to be a frame? Yeah, probably, yeah. Like, it would be a frame with no slots of its own. That would kind of defeat the purpose of it being a frame. I don't know what kind of item category I would put a cable under. Really weird. Probably just like the cable input output, like the cable port would be a peripheral, and then it would say you can plug in a cable to link it to another component and send signals to that other component. With cables, I'm definitely not bothering with cables within a component, but for linking two different within a gadget, sorry, but with it to link different gadgets, yeah, I'm definitely using cables. So we have backpack, frame, toy car, drone, camp wall, and then the frame can go on the vehicle, or you can just deploy it out in the wild. could do some, like a frame that's hidden, and then you would send it a signal, and it would pop out, kind of like those turrets from Cyberpunk. Like something that would blend into the decor, and then you could decide to hide it or show it. That could be a frame, I guess. Assume that there's X length of cable included, and to get more cable you need more electronics components or more scrap. Could be a frame that has 2 slots, each of which can only accept another frame. How would that work? Like if you have one that's really big and one that's really small, like would you be able to roll the entire camp on the back of a toy car? Like I would need to figure that out. Retractable frame or like articulated frame, something that can move but only within like a specific radius. Here's the thing about that though, is I already have a robot arm, and I feel like that might be a bit too much of an overlap. Like you could use a robot arm to just put a tarp onto the frame or remove it, I guess. Multiple engines. Are they making a 2? I was under the impression that the first one was a flop. I'm definitely watching it though. I guess I probably don't need a single frame thing. Maybe they can be a small frame, medium frame, large frame, each with their own different uses. Like maybe the small frame you could toss it, and then the large frame you wouldn't be able to actually deploy it in the middle of a fight. You could deploy or retrieve this chassis as a use an item action, or throw it up to 10 meters away. How bonkers it can get. I'll just do the small frame and large frame, and then we'll move on to the components. Medium frame. Large frame would be like 12 by 12. You could deploy or retrieve this chassis as part of a short rest. It stays in place after being deployed, and I guess like the medium frame, you could also put it on a vehicle, but it would take like 2 slots. Okay, let's go with that list, that starting list of frames at least. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's already pretty good. Like, yeah, you could do a whole lot of that. A whole lot with that, sorry. Okay, and now let's talk about the sensors and the peripherals. So I already have a list here. So I'm probably just going to copy paste that list, but then figure out how it works with the new system of component slots. Let's make a backpack that can cool your beer. Or okay. So here, let's start with sensors. Since I already have the rules here, I'm probably just going to list the sensor and then give it a size. So button. Size 1 by 1. Super simple, super easy. Radio antenna. So that's the one. That's incorrect, by the way. This is a sensor. It should receive. Oh no, okay. It sends one when it detects the signal. Okay. That's probably going to be like 2 by 1. Geiger counter probably going to be very small. Motion sensor. If we use the one that I copy pasted here, like that's pretty small. There's probably some bigger ones out there, but let's go with 1 by 1 for this. GPS. I'm already noticing that most of them are 1 by 1 right now. I don't know if it's going to be the case for every single sensor. Probably. GPS receiver, microphone, camera. Yeah, all of these would be 1 by 1 probably. Thermal imaging camera and control panel. Control panel would probably be the only one that's a bit bigger, like, since you need to actually have enough space for a screen, maybe even like a keyboard. So let's go with 4 by 4 for this. Satellite antenna. It's like an antenna, except it can give you complex signals. Or also 4 by 4 probably. Two by 2. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Undecided at this point. I'll figure it out. Like, do I want people to be able to carry a whole satellite antenna in their backpack? I guess is the question. And the answer is probably yes, because the image is just too good. I think it's probably better to have the peripherals be the things that take up most of the space. Yeah. Radio antenna can only do simple signals. Is it the case? It's been a while since I read it. Oh, okay, it could do audio and video, but the satellite can do any type. So not just simple signals. My bad. Yeah, you could use a radio to do like a talkie-walkie kind of thing. Would there be other types of signals that would have different sizes? I guess I could do like tripwires, pressure plates, that sort of thing. That would be a bit bigger, but most of what those things would do, a motion sensor would do just straight up better. We have satellite phones today, so probably not too massive. Oh yeah, I didn't think of it that way. Yeah. One thing I did want to add also is military and antenna, which is basically just an antenna, and that would probably actually be pretty big. Except this one is military grade, which would mean it would work even during the day. Basically, that's the only difference. Is it works? It's immune to interference, basically. Life sign detectors. Is that a thing that could exist? Because I'm already have. That was kind of the intent of the thermal imaging camera, is to be able to detect any living thing. Simple temperature is a thing where they have considering too. You could do temperature measurements with this, with the thermal imaging camera. Not just use it to detect bad guys. Any other type of signal or sensor? Nah, probably not. Nah, it's probably fine. I don't want to have too many sensors either, because like it could very easily start pushing people away from the system. You could have a sensor that translates complex signal into simple. So you can already do that. Like by default, since simple signals are just on or off, you could use any complex signal as a simple signal by default. Speed sensor. Ooh. I guess you could do this with a camera. Like, it's kind of... I'll write it down just in case. Okay, but peripherals. So, for the peripherals, we have, and I'm gonna do the same here. I'm not gonna write all of the rules again. I'm just gonna give all of them a size. So loudspeaker, probably like 2x2, I guess. Radio emitter, so that's the opposite of an antenna. Technically, it's also an antenna, but don't worry about it too much. I decided to keep them separate to keep things a bit clearer in the game. So probably 2x1, just like the other one. Flashlight. That's probably pretty small. So I did put a lot of very small peripherals. I kind of focused on gadgets that you could carry with you so far, but I can definitely add a few bigger ones. Spotlight and street lamp. Yeah, those ones are the big version. spotlight is probably going to be like 6 by 3, and then street lamp 10 by 3, like really, really tall. Then we have the weapon holder. So this one is definitely... I was about to say I don't want it to fit in a backpack, but more than that, I already have it, right? Like, one of the frames, the intent was to kind of replace this one. Gonna build your own bat signal. That is such a thing I need to do in my home game. Weapon holder. I guess this would be more the firing mechanism, like the thing that would pull the trigger on the weapon, so I could still have it. And probably make it like 2 by 3, let's say. CRT television. That's a bit outdated. That is something I need to update for the sci-fi world. Screen. Probably also going to be 2 by 3. Robot arm. Those things could come in a bunch of different sizes. Like there's small robot arms and there's big robot arms. Plasma screens, yeah, you're in the future. We're talking like hologram screens at this point. Do I want to have a separate item for like tiny robot arms and then huge ones? Like, what would you call a tiny robot arm? Nano arm. And then the other one would be just a crane. Nano arm would be like something tiny, 2 by 1, and robot arm would be like, let's say 4 by 4, I think. I think you can merge all of these types with extension, like small, medium, and large frames. Can be upgrades. Would it be upgrades? Because I think it's more like they would have different uses, right? You don't always need a large frame. Sometimes it's better to just have something you can throw at people and then let it do its thing, you know? Or throw in like a tiny hole in the wall. You just throw your toy car in it and then use it as like a spy inside the enemy camp. Then we had the toy car, so that's become a frame now. We have the electric gate. Probably going to be like 5 by 10. Something crazy like that. Cable we said that one would be 1 by 1, and then a computer. That one is probably pretty big, because we already had the screen above. And the screen we only made 2 by 3, so let's reduce that size. I think it would make sense. Crafting a toy car, a real one would have different timetables. Oh, you mean I could have like a car as a frame? I think we said it would probably be better to have a frame that you can attach to vehicles rather than treat vehicles as frames. Can't find the online term for a segment of a limb, like forearm. Ah. Yeah, when it comes to English vocabulary, I'm probably not gonna be able to help you there. I can barely help myself. I feel like peripherals is the one that I could kind of go crazy and have like 30 different types of peripherals in there, and it wouldn't hurt the system too much. Especially if a lot of them are just different sizes for different purposes. Robotic limb segment has a slot for robotic limb segment. You just make an endless chain. You could reduce the size of this list. I could definitely have categories in there, like I could do light and then have these indented or like presented as a family. Like you often see that in monster blocks in D&D. Like you can have a list of elementals rather than the air elemental separate from the fire elemental, etc. And then this would be actuators. That's a word that exists. And since it's an A, I'm just putting it at the start. I don't know how it's going to go in playtest, but I'm definitely interested in trying this. Trying to see how the players react to it. Was there something else to consider on this little TPT thing? Energy is a resource. We got rid of that. Factor expression not included. We've said that would not be a problem. One other approach I mentioned was to make this, to give each class like a list of secret components only they could make. But yeah, no, the more I think about it, the more I think the way we have it set up with the frames, like I need to at least experiment with that in practice, see how it works. Is this D&D related somehow? Welcome. So if this is your first stream, hi. I'm making a tabletop RPG system called Flareful. It's a sci-fi post-apocalyptic world that's been destroyed by a solar flare, so all of the technology is fried. So it's kind of D&D related, but it's a different game. And we're trying to make it fun. But as you can see, it's a bit of a brainstorm kind of thing. Alright, I think I'm gonna need to test this before I go further with it and like implement a bunch of things in the character sheet. So for now, I think we're gonna shelve this for now. I'm going to take a little break, like 5 minutes or so, and then after the break, we're gonna get back and talk about the other thing I wanted to explore today, which is skills. Where's my rules, my game rules, the skills? There it is. Because, yeah, it's hard to make a skill system that doesn't take 50 pages. The entire idea is it needs to be very flexible. But I don't think it's quite where I want it to be yet. So yeah, see you after the break. I'm gonna need some oxygen in my brain. Yeah. Hello, hello, hello. I just realized while I was taking a little break, I did mention earlier in the stream, like at the start, maybe I would give you guys a little sneak peek of what I'm working on for the next video. And I kind of forgot and got immediately into the gadget discussion. Let me just switch projects real quick. Let me just give you a little taste, because this is definitely the kind of project I want feedback on to get it right. So, whoop. There you go. And it's going to be a very early version. Like, this is not usable at the moment. Hello, welcome back. So, as I think I talked about on the Discord channel, next video is going to be about playtesting. And if I can find Firefox, yeah, there we go. Just the root, please. Yeah, thank you. So the main takeaway for that video is basically going to be that a lot of tabletop RPG publishers, whether that's third-party D&D creators or people who make entire new systems, don't really have the reach to really get their stuff playtested. Like, to give you an example, even the book I got an Annie Award for, which was Home Field Advantage. Like, that thing got a lot of praise, but full disclaimer, the quality control for that was me just reviewing whatever the rest of the team was writing and telling them, I need this to be at least as good as what you would expect from like Wizard of the Coast. So that was kind of loose, in a sense. Like, it's not real quality control that you could expect in like the video game industry, or like most industries, really. Like, I still think like it's a cool book. Like, it's my favorite child, but yeah, like, I kind of want to give people that chance that I didn't have at the time, which was to get their stuff playtested actually, even if they don't have any sort of reach. So for that, I'm making a website, which is this thing, where publishers will be able to offer these bounties here. So anything from name credits, discount code, gift cards, free PDFs, free hardcover copies, or just getting paid straight up in exchange for getting their stuff playtested. So that's kind of the idea, and there's going to be a whole second half of it, which I haven't even begun to work yet, which is a Discord bot, so that people can be warned about new playtesting opportunities without changing their daily routine, basically. And what I have at the moment, is this going to leak anything? Maybe. So I'm just going to do that over here. Yeah, there we go. Log in. Okay, so now I'm logged in. And I can I can change my entire profile here. One of the restrictions is I need every publisher to give some kind of a way to be contacted outside of this website. So as you can see here, like, it requires me to, as a publisher, give you either a Twitter account, a Facebook account, or some kind of a manual proof on other websites. And then if I provide that, I can create a nice little playtest. You have leaked the console output to us. Yeah, I don't think that's too much of a worry. And one thing I kind of want a player's opinion on, because I've shown this to a bunch of friendly publishers out there already, so I'm waiting for feedback from them, from their side. Like, would you use this to advertise your own playtests, or are there some pain points? But I kind of want the opposite perspective as well, which is, would you, as a tabletop RPG player, use this? Like, would you trust this? Would you trust, like, if there was a playtest offering in there that promised you some money, would you be okay with it, you know? And one of the probably more contentious things is most contracts, most playtesting opportunities, like, they have some legal stuff around them. Like, you're not just playing and then getting some reward. It actually needs to have like a contract around it. So I have a few. Where is how do I download it? Save. There we go. And I have some default some default clauses in there. Do I really want to read a contract on stream? Is this some nice entertainment? Probably not. I guess I'll just talk about this on Discord later. See what people think of this little default agreement. Yeah, I'll just take a screenshot and then share it on Discord and then talk about this later. Okay, back to game design. Five out of 5 entertainment would sign again. Run dev mode. Okay, so let's talk about skills. This is not going to work. There we go. Hello, the rules page, can you load? No? Okay, there we go. So for skills. Right now I have this list of skills and none of them are described. Like, they have one sentence of description. If you compare that to, let's take the 5 point, the 5e SRD. That's the one with all of the OGL stuff in it. That's a bit overkill. There we go. And like, that's not even a system people usually describe as very well laid out, but even they already have a lot more details about every single skill than I have. Can I get to the skills description? Oh god. Do I have a table of content? Please tell. No. D&D, please. Okay, they're not all good then. I still have some some leeway. Elf, blah 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 blah. It's not in the SRD. I thought it was. Huh. Okay. Roll20 is gonna have it then. Oh, they don't have it. Is it just in the player's handbook? No, there it is. Okay. Like they have one paragraph. Which is already more than I have. So that's kind of what I want to do today is add a bit of polish to this. Because I think the rules for the skills, like they're fine. I might change them up a bit because one of the things I want is to include luck into the roll somehow. We're gonna see if I can make that happen. But more importantly, like right now there is basically zero guidance about what is a computer's check. And I'm not sure I really need a lot of these. Like, I'm not sure I need a nature check, for example. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing for this game. So let's add some more detail. Do I need this detail in the player-facing section of the book, or do I need it in the GM-facing section of the book? I think I'm going to put it in this section. I'm just going to break it up and basically break this file into a bunch of different files. So where's my skills? Here. Skills. I'm just gonna have a new file in there called skill description, which I'm gonna need to include in the actual rulebook. There it is. So that's going to be the exact same thing as here, except it's skill descriptions. And then I need to actually import this. Okay. Clearly that worked. Oh, it's just because I called it skill descriptions, plural. Okay, there we go. So now there's a new section here, which right now is empty, and I'm just gonna give a bunch more detail here. So we have these skills. There. Oops. And each of them is going to need its own little section. So if I scroll down, now I should have... oh god. That is not how I expected this to be rendered. I'm just gonna put like a single piece of text just so it's broken down. There we go. Okay. The overall section probably needs some kind of an introduction. Now we're going to go very generic. So here's below. You will find, unpopular opinion, acrobatics and athletics should be the same skill that uses dexterity or strength. The list of skills in the game should probably be another thing I need to consider, because yeah, there's a lot of 5e-isms in there, and I'm not a huge fan of it either. Same for perception and investigation. Oh, way ahead of you. I've already gotten rid of perception. It's only investigation here. Being good at running fast and being good at doing backflips are two different skills. Yeah, and I don't think I want athletics to be about doing backflips. Like, here's the thing about skills, and this is one of the things I already kind of considered as part of the skill system, just the math or the how you roll skills. So in D&D, what you do is you add your proficiency bonus if you're proficient in a skill. So let's say you're rolling just strength, and you're a very strong character. You're gonna have a bonus of like +3 to +5. So that means if a skill check is medium difficulty, it's probably around DC 13 to DC 15. But if you're rolling athletics, now your bonus could be anywhere from +7 to +10. So a medium difficulty check is going to be DC 15 to DC maybe 20. And what I do in this game instead, because I really don't like the idea that what a DC means depends on what you're rolling, is that instead, if you lack proficiency in a skill, you increase the difficulty of the skill. So instead of rolling like a DC 10 check, if you lack the proficiency, now you're rolling a DC 12 check. So that mathematically it's kind of the same, it's just the presentation that's really different to me. I don't always want my super acrobatic character to be good at all pushing, lifting, and heavy objects. Yeah, but do we need pushing, lifting, etc. to be a skill? Is the thing. Yep. I'm just gonna mute myself for 10 seconds because I want to lower my desk and I don't want to bother you with the mechanical whir for 10 seconds. So just give me 10 seconds. Okay, there we go. I think, yeah, if I'm getting rid of one of them, because acrobatics would definitely be a skill, especially if I don't have dexterity, right? I only have speed. So acrobatics is different enough from the concept of just being fast that I think it warrants having an actual skill for that. But for athletics, like most of the times I ask my players to roll an athletics check, it really is just a strength check, but I want their bonus to be bigger. Right? I want the difference between a trained, so someone who's like a barbarian, I want that difference to be bigger compared to someone who's rolling that same check but like they're a weak wizard or something. Things that aren't skills lack opportunities for added bonuses. So we don't add really a bonus here. We're like you're just avoiding the -2 penalty. It's that little thing here. No, that's not the right expression. There we go. If you lack proficiency for that skill, reduce your result by 2. If you don't make it a skill, there isn't really a way to specialize at all. Yeah. How do I navigate this? Let's look at a bunch of character sheets from a bunch of different systems. Just try to look at the different skills they have. So, for example, Fallout 2d20 character sheet. Maybe that will give ideas. Oh god, the image viewer again. It's so bad. Maybe this one? Yeah. It's also Reddit. No! Okay. At least this one is a bit usable. So they do have athletics here. What else do they have for strength? They have melee weapons because they're one of those systems which treat weapons as skills. Yeah, their only strength related skills are the combat ones. Yeah, basically the way I want to present skills is when as a GM you ask for a skill roll specifically, it is to punish the people who are not trained in it. But I don't find that when I ask my players to roll athletics, I want the strength-based characters to succeed. I don't necessarily think it's something they should train at. I just want the strength characters to succeed. I don't know how to put it. Let's look at another system. Maybe Mutant Year Zero. They have a very different approach as well. There we go. So, oh yeah, they have 3 strength-related skills. They have Endure, Force, and Fight. And I think there are another one of those systems which use skill checks as attack checks, if I remember correctly. Moving an immovable rod with pure strength is nearly impossible. Moving it with athletics is doable. Yeah, exactly. Like, would you say someone has trained to move an immovable rod like that? They're kind of just using their strength, but we all decided to let them roll athletics just to make the roll even higher. Have different types of skills, innate skills like athletics, and trained skills like, I don't know, solving Rubik's cubes. That could be an approach, yeah. Let's just get rid of all of that. Actually, let's make it a square. Skills. There you go. So maybe one thing we could do is have the skills for each attribute work a bit differently. So you would have hard skills, attack. That could be an approach. You could have soft skills, I guess, like interpersonal skills or presence. And then I don't want to say party tricks, but that's kind of the spirit for speed. I guess athletic feats. If the words athletic and feats didn't have a meaning in tabletop RPGs, that would be fine, but here we are. Mushy skills. What do I call luck? I definitely want something like... We're just gonna name it luck skills for the moment. But it's probably not going to be skills. But yeah. It could be loot. It could be... questionable skill. What else could be governed by luck? Definitely, like, convincing the GM. Oh, I think you can hear my dog being angry in the background. So for soft skills, you have persuasion, and you have bluff, and you could have insight. I guess insight is more of a soft skill for sure. What else would be presence-based? Intimidation. Oh yeah, forgot that one. Hard skills would be computers, it could be science, engineering. I'm gonna need a second column for that because there's going to be a bunch of them. Computers, history. Machines instead of engineering is how I called it. Medicine, nature, investigation. For speed, you have acrobatics. Stealth is definitely one that players would expect to get. Passive skills, that also has a bit of a meaning that people would expect. And then bigger skills. And that's always the hard one. I'll make them as columns. And then make myself a bit smaller. You know what system has a lot of skills in it that could be used as an inspiration? It's good old 3.5. That thing has so much on it. Skills list. Oh god, there's so much. Thank you, Thurbane, from 2022 only. I was expecting this to be like 2005. Appraise. Is that a thing I want? Probably not. Auto-hypnosis, that's a skill. Why? Balance. Oh, they used to separate balance from like doing flips. Bluff, climb. Definitely don't want climb to be a skill. I just, it costs you extra movement, that's it. Concentration, control, shape, craft. I'm not doing crafting rolls in this system. You can just craft it if you have the sufficient skill and the materials. Decipher. Oh god, there are so many. And then all of them are verbs except escape artist. Oops, sorry. Yaijutsu. What? They have some wild stuff. Heal, hide. Yeah, a lot of it is a bit too fantasy focused. I don't think it's a good source of inspiration. Yeah. They have a lot, but it's not really stuff that's usable for me, I think. What's another sci-fi? The Starfinder. And the character sheet is too small. Maybe this one? Yeah, there we go. Oh, and they went with the D&D route of just having athletics. And it's the only skill that uses strength too. I'm really not sure what to do with skills. I'm not super happy with what we have in D&D with skills. But I'm not quite sure what to do. Like, the base system of having this thing that you can just roll as a default is really good because, like, it's the entire exploration system, right? You just list a couple of things that players in the setting could probably be good at. And suddenly you have rulings, not rules, implemented. Do you need skills? I think I do, because like, if I don't do skills, the alternative is doing what Pathfinder is doing, which is skill feats, right? A bunch of player features which replace feats. And that gets so crunchy. Like they have like features that you need to choose, that you need to consider when building your character. And I'm not talking about doing like a character build, like some kind of a optimizer kind of thing. No, just when writing down your character sheet, they have stuff like you can use strength for intimidation, and that should just work out of the box. You shouldn't need a feat for that. in my personal opinion. I replaced them with terminology which narrows scope instead. So you can go get circumstantial bonuses, but there's no defined skill list. I kind of tried to handle that as well with the custom skills. So what I have here is you can invent up to 2 skills for each character. I kind of experimented a bit with it, and if it was more than 2, I personally wouldn't be able to remember my players' skills as the game master. Like, I wouldn't be able to remember that one of the players is allowed to roll for hugs, for example, just because I couldn't remember all of the different skills they had picked. I guess if you're treating it as situational bonuses, like, it would be more up to the player to remind you, oh, I have a +2 when rolling hugs. So that could be a bit of a solution in a sense. So for example, charisma checks can be either hostile or amicable. Things like persuasion and performance might be amicable charisma checks, and deception or intimidation might be hostile. Ah. Okay, so you're introducing a bunch of different keywords like this to reduce the scope, and then players have bonuses for these. Okay. What could that look like for Flareful? What I'm noticing right now is those two are pretty well defined, like soft skills and hard skills. It's pretty easy to come up with the talky skills, and it's pretty easy to come up with the type of stuff you need to read a book to be able to do. But for the other 3 attributes, you don't really have a whole lot of stuff. Like, you could maybe use strength to intimidate. You could maybe use strength to do that sort of stuff. Hi Tim, welcome. Please make it possible to have a fairy drone pal as a gadget. I think we did. I think one of the things we did was a drone as a gadget. What we've added is the notion of a frame or a chassis. And one of the chassis is a drone, which you can control. It's still not a fairy. I understand if you're disappointed. But it flies, and it does fairy noises. But yes, skills. Putting things on a chassis to make your own fairy. You could paint it too, I guess. There's no rules for it, but it's allowed. You could even like put a bag of sparkles, and then when it flies, it just spreads the sparkles everywhere. Not necessarily something that works for every system, obviously, but allows for you to specialize, but not necessarily get a pigeonholed into a fixed skills list. Yeah. I do like the concept of having a skill list, if only for the fact that having the list of skills which are important to the game already communicates what the game is about. Like just by seeing that there's a computer skill and a machines skill, and then here, like you already get a lot of what this system is designed to handle. The fact that there's no arcana here probably already tells you a lot. So it's definitely a useful system, and like what other systems are modern? I think Vampire the Masquerade might be, like it's still kind of fantasy. Or World of Darkness. You also have 8 core stats, which also helps. Since you only have the 5 and one of them is luck, a fixed skills list might be a bit more necessary to increase the diversity of actions. Probably. It's almost like I only have 4, since I don't think luck is going to have any skills. What about a wider selection of more specific skills instead of a few narrower ones? I'm kind of okay with that for the technique skills. Where is my list of skills? Yeah, here. I'm kind of okay with that with the hard skills. Like I think for it fits the theme of hard skills. Cause like I can code, for example, but if you ask me to do some medicine, I am completely helpless. Oh, welcome. What's his name? How do you feel about the AR? Oh, how do you feel about the argument that fewer skills allow for more creative item solving? Oh, are you referring to that thing in the OSR community, where basically uh, in the OSR, one thing that's really interesting to me is they kind of treat rolling a skill as a fail state. Right? You want to interact with the room using your words before you default to rolling for stuff, because if you roll for stuff and you roll bad, something bad is going to happen. That's kind of the mood in the OSR. Creative problem solving. Yeah. I'm definitely interested in that. The problem I have with this is in the OSR, the way they achieve that kind of that mood where players are encouraged to actually ask questions to the GM and use logic and problem solving instead of just looking at the character sheet, is that they make the system really, really deadly. That's kind of their solution, is they have to make it so deadly to roll that players don't ever roll. And that has its costs, right? Like, it's harder to tell a story about a character in a game where characters are really expendable. And I'm kind of interested in telling stories about characters, so I would have to find another way to get that kind of dynamic going. That could be a slippery slope into super crunchy territory about the idea of having a bunch of small skills. Yeah, that's kind of what we saw with the the 3.5 character sheet, which was so specific. What was the World of Darkness skills list? Wanna bet? Are they gonna have athletics? And they do, but it kind of makes sense for the setting, because athletics is actually a thing. Like you have people whose job is to be an athlete, so that kind of makes sense for me. Gotta have used rope, yeah, exactly. Oh, they have a drive skill. Oh, fire. Seeing the drive skill reminds me that Cyberpunk is a thing. So Cyberpunk Red character sheet. Oh, this thing is complex. Oh god, Reddit, no, why did you change your image display? Okay, there we go. Oh, they have so many. Body skills. Contortionist. I'm curious, in the history of Cyberpunk, has anyone taken this skill? Resist torture drugs. This one might actually see some use. Shadowrun. Ooh. How do skills work in Shadowrun? I've never read that system. So you have attributes and you have a bunch of them. And the skills list is empty. That's interesting. Do you invent all of your skills, or are they like skill feats? Sorry for the dog in the background, by the way. The Modron dude didn't start barking. It's just my dog, don't worry. Oh, there's a Blade Runner system. Who's making that? Is it Modifius? By Free League. Okay, yeah. And they also have an empty list of skills. So I'm gonna have to do some investigation. The skills are force, hand-to-hand combat, stamina, mobility, stealth, firearms, tech, medical aid, connections, observation, manipulation, insight, and driving. Do I want driving as a skill? I don't have driving as a skill. But I'll write it down, because that's a maybe. Driving can fit into engineering on machines. That's not really the intention. For machines, it's more like building machines, less than piloting them. I feel like, personally, I've seen some characters who are good at both, for sure. But I've also seen a lot of characters who want to be good at one without being good at the other, if that makes sense. This isn't... oh yeah, this is Blade Runner. This isn't Shadowrun. Shadowrun skills list. Shadowrun wiki. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, you were not kidding. And they only have 2 for the strength equivalent. They only have diving and freefall, which sound like the same to me. Do you have a skill for like scavenge? So I don't, but that's on purpose. I don't have a skill called scavenge because to me, every single character is going to be good at it. So at this point, it's just going to be attacks. Like the whole party is a party of scavenger. So it doesn't really make sense to me for one player in the party to be better at it than the others. But one player is going to be better at it, and it's going to be the one who specializes on luck. Because they're just gonna find more loot. But that's more portrayed as the fun part of the setting, if that makes sense. What else do they have in Shadowrun? They have a bunch of weapon skills, which definitely bloats the list a bit. Oh, they have, if I can move my huge Modron body over to the side. They have drive, but they have divided it into a bunch of different things. Like pilot aerospace, pilot walker, pilot aircraft, pilot exotic vehicle. I'm curious what that is. Yeah, something that every player is expected to do shouldn't be your skill. Exactly, like perception, which is something that, yeah, in 5e, if you're not picking perception, you're usually not gonna have a good time. Associating driving and piloting with reaction is interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Like if I'm adding a driving skill, I'm definitely adding it to speed, I think, rather than technique. Or at the very least, it's going to be a choice between speed and technique. In Shadowrun, you often don't get a full skill either. You'll get like blades, katana. It will only apply to that subtype. Oh god, that's why they have so many skills that kind of sound the same. It's because you specialize. Charisma, they have instruction as a skill. That's interesting, but I don't know how often you would use that in an adventure. The story is usually about you doing stuff rather than you teaching people. That's definitely an important skill, don't get me wrong. Like, both of my parents are teachers, so I value it for sure, just maybe not for an adventure. But that's an interesting one. That's a thought-provoking one. What else do they have? Oh, I can switch sides. There we go. Instruction could be interesting if you have a more developed help system. Oh, I guess so. You could instruct the rest of the party. That could lead to some some weird dynamics at the table. What else do they have? Academic knowledge, arcana, automotive mechanics. Yeah, they have divided piloting from building vehicles. Demolition is a skill. First aid is a skill that is separate from medicine. That's interesting. How do they define it? First aid is the ability to provide emergency medical assistance similar to that of a paramedic. This skill might be used to stabilize wounds and prevent characters from dying. It cannot be used to perform surgery or repair damaged implants. And then a couple paragraphs later you have medicine, which is used to perform advanced medical procedures such as surgeries. So one of them is, I guess, the emergency one, and the other is the more long-term medicine thing. But most characters who would be good at... you could be good at just one of them, I guess. It lists all of the specializations. Oh, here. Cosmetic, extended care, implant, magical elf, trauma surgery. And what's the ones for first aid? Oh, it's by treatment. Oh, so you have to train how to heal gunshot wounds, and you have to train how to treat broken bones separately. Oh god, the amount of crunch. I'm sure people have fun with it, but it's not for me. Oh god, they have a compiling skill and a decompiling skill. Is that some developer stuff, or is that some Oh god, yes, it's some developer stuff. Because I know how these things work. I do not agree with... Oh no! Shadowrun is 99% crunch. It was the first system I ever played. But yeah. Then vowed to never touch it again. Oh no. That's a glowing review right there. Like, I don't know what it is with sci-fi specifically, but so many of these systems from Cyberpunk, Starfinder, like, I love the setting with all of my heart, and I would never play the system. Because, like, everything is so crunchy in sci-fi. I love, like, Night City is so cool for all of the reasons ever. But yeah, I've skimmed through Cyberpunk. I've watched a couple let's plays, not let's plays, but actual plays of it, and it's rough. They did make it better in Cyberpunk Red, to be completely fair. I think a lot of people's instinct is for sure that sci-fi means added crunch, because hand waving often feels too much like making it magic. Yeah, that's not what I'm doing with the, like, definitely with the gadgets. Is the whole gadget system is how I'm introducing hand waving to sci-fi. My campaign was set in Osaka and had vampires, megacorps, and the Yakuza. Sci-fi is so cool. The fact that you can say this sentence unironically, it has so much potential, you know? I've played a good chunk of Starfinder, and one of the things that struck me immediately, as a player at least, was how relatable it was, because you could just stroll into a new city and then you had a mission and you could just, you know, like look up something on the internet or the equivalent for the Starfinder setting. I don't remember how it's called. Like you have these consoles on the street corners. Like I think one of the threats I made as a player character to the bad guys was I would give them a 1-star review on Space Yelp. That's the kind of thing that you really can only do in sci-fi. Gonna iterate on the gadget system a bit. The foundation is good. I think you know what it needs to be better. Still free, absolutely. Crunchy systems are fine if the crunch isn't painful. Shadowrun makes you look through 15 different badly written books to find a basic ruling on a simple mechanic. Oh! Well, at least I have a search bar. So even if I write my stuff bad, which I'm gonna try to avoid, you'll be able to find it pretty easily. Hopefully. Like if I want, let's say, the rules for Stimpaks. There we go. Took 2 seconds, and I can roll it. I didn't make a whole lot of progress on those skills. But then again, is it a good idea to write a bunch of descriptions if I'm going to overhaul the entire thing? Okay, let's dig in a bit deeper into that idea of hard skills and soft skills. I think there's something there that could be done. How do you differentiate hard skills from soft skills? It could be... I'm gonna just whip, go to the other side. So it could be that you get a number of hard skills equal to your tech, and then you get a number of soft skills equal to your presence, for example. That would be one possible difference. I got those two confused. Hard skills and then soft skills. That's your presence. So that's one idea. Idea 2. Maybe the role, the math could be different. So for hard skills, you would be rolling, for example, against yourself, like against a set DC. And then for soft skills, since those are interpersonal in nature, you would roll against someone else. That could be another idea. I feel like writing skill descriptions is also the kind of thing you want to be able to sit down and focus on rather than something done on stream. Probably, actually, yeah. If there are different numbers, that's kind of the problem I'm discovering with this format where I'm doing streams so that I can make sure that I make some progress on this system, is that some of the progress I have to make would make for terrible, terrible streams. So idea 2, wait, sorry. If there are different numbers of possible skills for each, or if the skills on the one are strictly more important than the other, it could cause issue. That's going to go down to basically how the list of skills is set up, I guess. Like I would just need to make sure that there's no skill that doesn't have a use, I think. Idea 2 basically separates contested versus uncontested checks. Yeah. Would you need to sometimes roll, let's say, a contested computers check or a contested medicine check? Like most of these, even the ones that appear in other systems that I would have experience with, they feel like it's more about, do you know how to do the thing? Versus these ones, it's, are you better at that thing than the person you're rolling against? So it kind of makes sense to me to associate one of them with direct rolls and the other with contested rolls. If you're doing the classic hacker scene with two dueling hackers, oh god, no, not the hacker scene. Michael, you're a dev, you should know better. Oh god, no. But that's just an idea, though. Idea 3. How else could they be different? I'm not saying it's realistic, but it's 100% the kind of thing people will throw into a campaign and you know it. I guess I could justify it with some artificial intelligence, like general artificial intelligence nonsense. I guess, if I really had to. For the same reason that writers put it in every single show ever. Yep. Oh god, no. I need to write it down just so I can think about what to do about this, because it's definitely going to happen. Do I need some hacker duel mechanics? Hmm. And if I have soft skills and hard skills, like as categories of skills, do we need categories for the other three? Hmm. I could also see like investigation being contested by how well something has been hidden. Ah, yeah, that's something I do a lot. Is do contested checks except the other person isn't present. Like for example, you're trying to intimidate or persuade, like you're trying to bribe a guard, for example. Uh, what I'm what I usually do for these is I'm letting the player roll persuasion versus the intimidation of the guard captain, if that makes sense. Even if the guard captain isn't there. You might actually move investigation from hard to a soft skill. That is true, but it means soft skills aren't about the stat that's associated with them. And if the stat isn't the reason they're a hard skill or a soft skill, then I guess I could put like stealth in there and acrobatics. I guess stealth is more of a soft skill actually. You're usually rolling it against, like you're trying to figure out how people have set up their security defenses and all of that stuff. Yeah. I like this little distinction. I don't know if it brings a lot to the table. I'm not really convinced by either of these differences right now. I don't know if they bring enough to justify having like this whole new concept. What could be another difference between hard skills and soft skills? Idea 1 breaks, yeah. Because if you don't have hard skills equals your tech. Yeah, so this one is kind of doomed. Although to be fair, right now the formula for how many proficiencies you get is, I think, your tech plus 2. So you, even if your tech is like the lowest stat for your character, you still get some skill proficiencies. But right now it's skill proficiencies period, so for every single skill. So this idea is bad, but what I have at the moment is worse. Hmm. What could be the difference? This is very much a brainstorm stream. I don't know how entertaining it is, by the way. I apologize if it's not really the most exciting stream you've ever seen. I'm gonna try to make the next one like I'm gonna need to do a bunch of prep work for it, but I'm gonna try to do monsters for the next one. Could they interact with luck differently? Huh. So I do want luck to have something, because right now it's kind of pathetic. You have all of these uses for every single attribute. Technique has a bunch of skills, especially. And then you have luck. And luck has gumption and attitude, and that's all it has. Getting lucky when building a machine is very different from getting lucky in a bluff. Yeah. In a bluff, it would be like what you chose to bluff about just happened to be the one thing that you couldn't have known about. But that happened to be the weakness for whoever you were interacting with. I don't know how to represent that mechanically or mathematically. Rolling a soft skill. What would that look like? You would roll some kind of value. But this is just a contested check, like it doesn't bring a whole lot to the table. I don't know what to do with that. Maybe for soft skills, since they're contested. Oh, my eye is not opening anymore. There we go. I unbroke it. Maybe for soft skills, since they're contested, the luck affects the other roll somehow. But for hard skills, it affects yours. I guess you could do like one d10 plus your attribute plus your luck, and that would be for hard skills, and then for soft skills, and the math doesn't really need to make sense right now. Plus attribute minus others luck. Yeah, kind of. It's this. It's kind of the same as adding yours in a. Plus, if I have to tell you what the bad guy's luck stat is every single time you make a roll, that kind of slows things down as well. Yeah, for now, like the only thing this brings is the notion that is the association between hard skills and or soft skills and contested roles. Would you ever need a contested role that is not a soft skill? Like, is the name of the category inadequate? Maybe luck only applies at all to soft skills. You would double down the idea that hard skills are things you trained and good at. Oh, so you mean like soft skill equals 1d10 plus attribute plus luck, and then hard skill is 1d10 plus, just for the sake of having the same difficulties, we're just gonna add a multiplier here, like attribute plus attribute, something like this. Actually, I think I have a... One of the things I tried for the dice resolution mechanic was already that. Should be around here-ish. When rolling a skill, roll luck plus the attribute for that skill. If a skill can be used with 2 attributes, use the lowest one. Proficiency, you roll the attribute die with advantage. And situational boon or bane, you roll the luck die with advantage or disadvantage. That's one of the things I tried. What was the reason I didn't like it? Why not? You kind of have to have high luck, which I don't want to force on people, and the DCs were really weird. What's the next one I tried? Oh no, after that I went completely off the rails. This is difficult. It's going to be so much easier to just come up with a bunch of monsters than to come up with like the base rules for the system. I think this is a thing I need to sleep on and just digest a bit and think about off stream. But there's something which I don't think I need to sleep on, which is the gadget mechanics. I think those... I kind of want to implement the whole grid thing where you can drag and drop things. I don't know if I'm gonna do that today, though. I think it's going to be enough work that it might be an entire stream, or I might have to do it off stream. So how are things? We have not made a whole lot of progress on skill. I was supposed to write descriptions, and as you can see, we got a bit sidetracked. We looked at a bunch of character sheets, and I still don't know what I want to do with skills. Only that I'm not really happy with what I have at the moment, but I'm not really sure what I want to do. Throw it into a thought cabinet for another day. Yeah. Figuring out what you don't want is just as important. Yeah. It's easier when I figure out what I do want, though. I'll need to come up with like a list of, I guess, goals for the skill system to accomplish, and then work off of that. For example, I wouldn't want grid-based gadgets. Oh no! Hmm. Yeah, I think I need to sleep on that. I'm not done working on Fleffel for today. I still have a couple more hours of being awake. But what I'm going to spend the rest of the day doing is working on the Atom 20 extension. Make it compatible with the character sheet, and that has a bunch of secret keys on it. So doing that on stream is a bad idea. Because there's a bunch of secret keys about like Google Sheets and stuff, and they're very hard to hide. So I'm gonna have to work on that off stream though. My main concern with the grid-based gadgets is the ability to play without using your sight. Like you would essentially need D&D Beyond to play D&D. That would kind of suck. It's fine. I promise to keep them secret. Although it's fine because I don't think they even have my credit card. So even if they leaked, the worst that would happen is the service would probably just go down for a couple of days. But still, it's not great to leak those things. Anyway, yeah, that wasn't the best stream so far. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here for today. I'm gonna need to figure some stuff out of stream. Very much enjoyed it. Well, thank you for hanging out. At least we made some good progress on the gadget, I think. Like, I don't know if it's going to stay that way necessarily. But at the very least, we identified the fact that, yeah, maybe this doesn't actually need too much character expression. Maybe this just needs to be something people can just do. And then the technique guy, the tinker, can just be better at it. It was exactly what it was billed as, pretty much. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your days, guys. Have a nice one, and see you around.